Welcome back to the Garden with Joe and Holly radio show. Happy to have you along. We're going to discuss preparing your garden for the first frost. But first, word from our honeybee friends at Honeybee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honeybee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar water and Honeybee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed to see birds, bees, and butterflies dining together at the feeder. Pollinators coexist peacefully. Honeybee Healthy Inc. is offering a 10% discount on an 8-ounce bottle of Honeybee Healthy Original to the show's listeners. Enter code BGarden at checkout. For more information, mixing instructions, you can go to honeybeehealthy.com.
Well, frost is upon us, or nearly upon us, and there's some things in which we can prepare our garden for. Obviously, we want to try to get the most out of our garden as we can prior to the frost occurring. So, for example, we don't have a whole bushel of green tomatoes that we've got to figure out what to do with. So we'll start with tomatoes real quick. In order to get your tomatoes to ripen on the vine, start turning on the vine, there's a couple of ways in which you can accelerate or allow this to occur. From the time the flower develops on the tomato plant to the time you're harvesting at least a turning tomato, you're looking at about 20 to 28 days. So if you are getting in that window of, okay, the average first frost is about 30 days away, what you can do is a couple of things. One, you can stop watering your garden or watering the tomatoes. I know the precipitation, you can't control that, but if you're irrigating it, that's the time you want to stop watering. Two, each plant you can take and go 8 inches away from the plant, 6 to 8 inches away from the stem, and take a shovel and go straight down 3/4 of the way around the plant, and that will cut off the roots, some of the roots of it, and start stressing the plant out. You can also top the plant, take and cut the growth tips off of each limb, and that will stop the vertical growth and start putting the energy into the fruit development. So that is a couple of things in which you can do for tomatoes, as that is one of the most popular plants for people to grow and want to get the most out of it. Now, if you're doing it in containers, you can just cut the water off, and you could actually, that's a little different. We're talking mainly in ground or in a raised bed in that situation to get them to ripen.
So if you have any perennials that are possibly tropical that you can bring inside your home to overwinter, you would want to do that sooner than later, just because once you reach a certain point, a frost could happen anytime. And while I know that a lot of these meteorologists like to try to warn people as much as possible, it's better if you've been growing these tropicals for a long time to bring them in, or not even if they're tropicals, but if they are sensitive to the cold, to the frost, etc. I'd rather bring them in sooner and be safe than leave them out and then have them.
Well, I don't know about other parts of the country, but a couple of weeks ago in the northern portions of Wisconsin, there were temperatures 37, 38, 39 for lows, and they were very prolific or very, very vocal about frost warnings. Now, I don't think it got that cold, but low 40s is where it was at. We're still in early. Yeah, we're still in technically summer, and the leaves have not even started to change. That's still cold, or getting really cold quite early.
Right, and that's all we're saying is that if you do have those sensitive plants, you can bring them in, or if you maybe have other things going on later on in the year, you can do some of these things sooner than later. So you could also cut the perennials back. That's another thing people do, is they trim them back to wherever they should do. A lot of times it's just like kind of level with the soil. A lot of times it might be something else. And then if you have anything that you would cover, like I know a lot of people cover their rose bushes, their whatever it's called, arborvitae.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go. And then you can also think about planting your fall
Next week on the program, we're going to discuss how to pronounce specific plant words.
Yeah, you can plant your fall bulbs if you haven't done that yet. And
get your garlic ready.
So these are some things that you can do before that would be the freeze, the bulbs.
Right.
But you can do that sooner well, not necessarily always sooner than later, but it's something that, like, hey, I have these bulbs that I bought in the spring. Where are they? I don't know. Oh, maybe I should find them. And they're like rotting in the corner of your garage.
Well, here's the thing. We all experience this. We've all experienced this, and we'll do it again and again. We work hard for our perennials and or our vegetables, as well as our annual or our perennials or annuals or flowers. And we work hard to get them to produce. Everything's going well, and then we look at the forecast, and it's typically we're a month away from the first average frost. But hey, there's a possibility of frost or cold or temperatures that our plants are not going to like. So we fight and we fight and we fight to try to protect them, whether it's through low tunnels or fabric over top of them to protect them from our early frost, because it's supposed to be 42 tonight and 42 tomorrow night, and then the next 10 days it's supposed to be 85 for highs and 65 for lows. So we fight this losing battle where we protect our plants because we know the inevitable is going to happen, that they're going to freeze and it's going to be all. But we want that little bit more. Can we get one more week out of them? Now, here where we're located in southeast Wisconsin, you hear these stories, the old farmer stories. Back in 2016 was the best year we ever had. And that was the case for us because we started planting things a month earlier than we ever had before, and we ever have since. We put things in the ground in March. The colder sensitive, or not the cold, the cool tolerant or cool plants. And then we didn't get that first frost until November 18th.
Yeah, it was like November, yeah.
We were picking tomatoes a week before Thanksgiving. So we had a month longer in the fall and a month earlier in the spring, when since then we've had snow on the ground in some instances in early November, and we've had snow on the ground in middle of April. So it's one of those things. But we're preparing for frost. We've gotten way off the topic here about preparing the garden for frost. You do want to, there are plants in which you can go in and put in the garden that are frost tolerant and frost that doesn't get affected by frost. Your lettuces, your radishes, your spinach. You can get some carrots in, you can get some turnips in, you can get some rutabagas in. All take different durations of time for harvest, but these are cool weather crops and crops that like the longer nights and the cooler days.
Also, knowing your plants, for example, kale.
This is Fred. He is a carrot.
Kale is okay when it comes to the frost for the most part.
Right.
So you might think, okay,
what can I leave in?
Yeah, what can I leave in? What can I possibly just cover up? Like Joy had mentioned, carrots is one that you could cover up in case of a frost, or certain soft body tomatoes or soft body vegetables like tomatoes. Yes, you do want to bring those in. But if it's a hardier vegetable, then if it's going to go through one frost, if you cover it up or something, it should be okay.
Rule of thumb: if you planted it after the last frost, it's not going to make it through the first frost.
Right, exactly. And some of these things at this point, you probably already are done harvesting. Like most people's cucumbers are done at this point,
or they're so bad and bitter. Tomatoes are the same way. The longer the tomato sits on the vine in order to ripen, the tougher the skin is. Now, regardless of that, no matter how tough the skin is on a tomato, it still far surpasses any tomato you're going to buy at the supermarket. Now, it does, the farmer's market is a totally different world because those are produce that is coming out of the same environment or method of harvest as you are in your backyard. But it's a good way to supplement those things in which you may not have enough of or had a crop failure, is that farmer's market.
Right, and that is a good way to supplement is the farmers markets, and you can find those by searching farmers market and your zip code, and that way you can get an idea for where you can find one. And this is definitely becoming a popular time for farmers markets because now a lot of harvest is being harvested.
But I mean, you can cover your plants, protect your plants with a frost cloth or a garden blanket, floating row cover. You can use a bed sheet. You don't want to use flannel because that's too heavy and thick on your plants. You can drape this over top of your plants. It's not going to crush the plants. These are light fabrics. You want to avoid plastic because plastic it will touch, if it touches the foliage, that foliage in which it touches, it will kill that. The fabric will not. So you want to be aware of that. If you are getting to the point where you're trying to prolong your plants, water your plants early in the day before the frost happens, to give them more hydration. And a hydrated plant is a healthier plant, not only for bugs, but also to sustain colder temperatures. And if you do get the place where you do have snow coverage on these plants that are not going to die because of it, you blow the snow off as quickly as possible so you prevent the damage of the plant from the snow. Your pine trees or your trees, they capture a lot of snow and they will start to bend over, and too much snow, they can snap at the stem. So you want to be aware of that and shake the snow off of those particular areas as well.
Another thing you can do is if you planted perennials, like new perennials, in the spring or anytime throughout the season, their roots might be shallow and you might not have mulched them yet. And not saying you have to mulch, but utilizing mulch before a frost or close to a frost and even just over winter will help kind of insulate those roots. Even if maybe you don't want to determine a certain type of mulch, you could just use some straw in the interim until you decide what you're going to do. I know a lot of people, when you plant these perennials, you might have a plan and you're like, I don't know what kind of mulch I want to use, blah, blah, blah. So something to protect those roots is important, especially if you did just plant them. They may have some shallow roots and you want to protect them from whether it be the frost or eventually the freeze.
Well, as we talked about, the nighttime temperatures in some areas would indicate that summer may be over. Well, we know summer is getting close to being over because the kids are back in school and those nights are colder than they have been. But there is one problem that many of us have faced, and that is we have forgotten about our lawn.
Yeah, just because we don't want to forget about our yards, those Japanese beetles either. They might be gone, but they're not far. Not only did they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they laid eggs on your turf so they can start again next year. Take us down with Phylum's Grub-A-Gone. Grub-A-Gone is a non-chemical BT granule that specifically targets scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granule with a spreader, irrigate it into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
Grub-A-Gone is easy to use, simple to use, and is non-toxic, and is a great choice to effectively control grubs. And the best part about it, it's non-toxic to bees and other beneficial pollinators and insects. In fact, Grub-A-Gone has no label restrictions for around flowering plants, so you don't have to worry about those bees or insects taking up that toxin pollen and taking about and infecting their hive and their colonies. Find out more at grubgone.com from the parent company Phylum Bioproducts, the natural choice. That's grubgone.com.